lot about goals. We've talked a lot about our values and visualization and what it is that we want. Well, I want us to step back a minute and let's talk about the different areas of our life. Some of these areas you're going to be quite familiar with, and you've heard them all before, but there are others that you might not be so familiar with. So I want you to spend some time really thinking about what it is that I'm about to introduce to you. And again, as always, think about how you want your life to be in these different areas. How do you want to show up in them? Okay? So let's get started. The first area of our life is our home life. And it's not just the type of home that we want, but it's the experience that we want within that structure. So whether you live in an apartment, or if you live in a tiny house, or if you live in a big mansion, it doesn't matter. But when somebody comes into the door of your home, when you come into the door of your home, what is it that you want to experience? Do you want to experience calmness? Do you want to experience peace? What does that look like? So just spend some time thinking about what is that you want within your home, and also how are you going to do that? How are you going to get what it is that you want, that experience of what you want? What do you need to do to put in place to get that? Another area are relationships. Well, relationships can be a little complicated. So I just don't want to limit this to the relationships, to our primary love relationships, although that's incredibly important. I also want to talk about the relationships that we have with our children, the relationships that we have with our coworkers, the relationships that we have with perfect strangers on the street. I want you to think about what it is that you want to be within a relationship. Who's the type of person that you want to be? How do you want to show up in that relationship? What do you want that other person to experience you as? So it's a little different than thinking about what it is that you want in a relationship. That's important, but I want you to flip it, and I want you to think about what is it that you want the other person to experience when they're dealing with you. And then if you want that, what is it that you need to do to put in place in your life so that you can be that? Okay? So another area is knowledge or education or skills. It's funny because for some people, you think after you get out of school, learning is done. It isn't. It's just the beginning of the world around us. I mean, think about it. If you want to learn a new hobby, if you have neighbors that speak a different language that move in next door and you want to communicate with them, if you want to learn more about the world around you, if you just want to learn why do different plants grow in different areas, and you want to be a better gardener, what is it that you want to do to learn to open your world up to new experiences, just new ways of being? How does that look? Is that a formal education? Is that sitting down, talking with your neighbor next door who is an experienced gardener or who was a former teacher and is so much full of knowledge, but now that they're retired, they're kind of sitting back and they're kind of wondering, what do I have to share? You could be their godsend by sitting back and just having a conversation and letting them be the best of themselves to you. So how is it that you want your education or knowledge or your skills? What do you want with that? And how does that show up in your life? Then the next area is creativity. Creativity is fun. It's how do you want to express this creative side within you? Is it that you want to paint? Is it that you want to use color more? Is it that you want to it doesn't matter. I mean, there's so many, many different ways you can be creative in terms of the car that you drive or the clothes that you wear, how you wear your hair, I mean, how is it that you want creativity to be expressed through you? What is it? How do you want to be a more creative person within the world? Service. This is so important, because by serving others, we actually become better ourselves. So how is it that we want to give of ourselves to another person? When we are giving of ourselves to another person, it just shows all the blessings that we've been given. So how is it that you want service to show up in your life? And again, it doesn't necessarily have to take the form that we typically might think. We don't have to necessarily serve through an organization. We can serve by helping someone with their groceries across the street, by making sure that we open the door for every person that comes through a door behind us, and without the expectation that they do that for ourselves. So service, it doesn't even have to be formal. Nobody even has to know that we're doing it. It's another way of giving back to our fellow brethren and sister, our fellow mankind. Our work and our career, or our vocation, is another area in our life in which we can look at where we are now and where we want to go. But it's a small area of our life. It's not all that we are. Many of us, sometimes we forget that we are not how we make our money. Sometimes, we're a lot more than that. We're more complicated than that. So, kind of understanding of that, our work and our career, it's important. It is important, because without money, we need our money so that we can, eat and keep a roof over our head. But how do we want that to show up? Our financial health, being good stewards of the money that we have. How do we want that to look? Do we want debt? Do we not want debt? Do we want, how much income do we want? And then what do we want to do with that? One area that sometimes I think we talk to our children about, but we don't really do for ourselves, is the type of people that we spend most of our time interacting with. Who are these people that we want to just spend time with? And sometimes they're people who might not be the healthiest for us. And if that's the case, what do we need to do to step into working with people who are much healthier for us and who will enhance our lives? Who are those people that will make us a better us, who we can be more authentically ourselves through and to? Recreation and fun time. You gotta have fun out of life. How do you want to do that? How do you want to spend that time? Your attitude. How do you want to be when you're dealing with difficult situations? Or how is it that you want to be when you're just waking up in the morning? How is it your attitude, the thing that you show people, what does that look like? Do you need to change it? Do you need to tweak it? Do you need to enhance it? Maybe you're fine and you don't need to do anything. That's fine. But it's just something to think about. Your clothing and accessories. Clothing and accessories is critical. It's something that some of us don't think about, but it's also could be our uniform for our job, but it also shows who we are. And you don't necessarily have to have the clothing and accessories that everybody tells you. You can have your own unique style and your own unique look if that's what you want. But what is that? And then how do you want that to look? Just some thoughts. Your physical body. Are you in the best health? What do you need to get there? How do you want your physical body to look? I've always talked about something I got to work on, but I've always wanted Michelle Obama's arms. I think she has the prettiest arms ever. So if that's the case, what do you have to do to work to get arms that look like hers? What do you have to do? So, and then your values, of course. We've talked a lot on prior videos about our values and about how those values show up in the world, and how those values make our foundation. But if we find that we need to spend more time even thinking about how we can fit more within our core values, this is the time to think about it. Writing down what it is that you want, how do you want to enhance those values, how do you want to make them stronger. And so what I challenge you to do is to look at those different areas in your life. Look at where you are now within those different areas in your life, and then look where you want to be a year from now, or maybe even 3 years from now. And how do you want that progression? How do you want that to look? That is one of the core pieces of the Brain Trust Academy, is to recognizing the fullness of you, the wholeness of you, and where you are now and where you want to be.